Okay, I'm here with attorney Leone. Yeah, so I just wanted to come in and kind of talk about your history and your legacy, and just kind of the different things you've seen in real estate over the years.
Well, I'll answer any questions you have. As I said, I've been practicing for 41 years. I knew your dad and I knew your grandfather, and both gentlemen, both good lawyers. Um, Arseny was your grandfather was he helped me out many times with advice and counsel, and I always appreciated. He was very kind that way. And your dad called me many times, and we did a lot of work together. My history is basically, as I said, I've been a lawyer, and then I had city title for many years, which was a real estate land title business. And I represented many people on many different types of disputes, legal disputes, and cases. And I went to YSU, graduated in 1972, and then went to South Texas College of Law, where I could start my career, my law school career, started in January instead of waiting until September. I was accepted at the University of Akron in the fall, but I could start early, so I went there. My brother was living there. I have a twin brother, Dennis.
Really? Okay.
And he lived in Texas, and I lived with him, and we lived together. He was single. We shared an apartment, and I went to law school, night school there, and worked, went through school, and then came back here. Took the bar exam, passed it, and I was going to go in to be a partner with Attorney Richard Davis. His dad at the time was the sheriff, Ray Davis, and he graduated after me. But Ray, unfortunately, was beat in the election, so but we did go in together, and I went out on my own with the title business and real estate business. But our plan was to do a lot of work through the sheriff's office. But again, he was defeated after years and years as the sheriff. But hey, that's politics in our area. And he was a Republican, and that never. They always had a tough time.
In Mahoney County.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you started your law practice
My law
in
practice.
what year?
1976.
Okay.
I took the bar exam in February of 76. Was sworn in April of 76. And passed the bar. And been practicing ever since.
So were you? I know you were talking about your partner there. Did you end up going together, like at this same building or a different building, or?
I was downtown. We were at the Legal Arts Building. I started out with attorney Bert Riegelhop, and I shared some space with him. Then I went in with attorney James Cataland and attorney Richard Davis.
Okay.
He was my friend for many years. We went to college together. He was at my wedding. And then I went by myself and opened up the city title company on West Boardman Street in Youngstown for many years. And that's where I practiced, and my law practice and my land title business. And that's where then over the years I ended up buying that building downtown, and rented part of it out to the bonding company, that Acme Bonding, which was right next door. And I eventually sold that building, moved up here to Boardman, I think in probably 2001. at this at 8172 Market Street here, next to Bergen Real Estate. And I had been the attorney for the Board of Realtors since 1983 until last year when I slowed down a little bit.
What does that mean, attorney of the realtors? What does that mean?
Well, they have to have a legal counsel and to advise their association, and I served in that thing for many, many years.
To make sure the realtors are following the
realtors,
guidelines and laws of Ohio?
Right.
Okay.
And they're associated with the National and State Association, and part of their rules are that they have counsel.
Who's the attorney for that now?
I'm not sure if they replaced one now. I'm not sure. They must have, but I don't know who it is now.
Okay. So you're downtown. My dad and my grandpa were in the Federal Building down on Elm Street.
I knew that. And I was at 24 West Boardman Street, which is just a law office and land title business. And then I moved, as I said, to Boardman. Then I moved here in 2009, I think.
Right.
You and your brothers, and I've done a couple transactions with you. Very nice to work with. And if you have any questions about anything, feel free to call me anytime, you or your brothers, about any transaction we do for you, or about any legal question you have with regard to real estate. That's my business. And I've seen it all in all these years. I can't think of a situation we haven't run into. Go ahead.
Yeah, why did you get into like real estate when you were down in law school there?
I mean, just the way things happened. What you liked, what you got a lot of business of, what people came to you. Now, Richard Davis, his stepmother was Lillian DeMar, and she had a real estate company. And she would call me with questions, and he would seek advice. That's kind of how we got into it together. And again, then she was involved very much in the real estate business, calling for advice. And she recommended that I be a member of the board of directors of the Youngstown Association of Real Estate, which I was in 1982, and they were impressed with my advice and my knowledge. Mm-hmm. They asked me to be their counsel. Their counsel had previously been Manchester Bennett, which was a large firm, and they charged a lot of money, so I guess they were looking for a less expensive attorney. And as I said, my knowledge was pretty clear. And the big issue at that time, as I recall it, which was these due on sale clauses with the mortgages, where people were trying to, because the mortgage rates at that time were 15-16%, people were trying to let the people where they have a balance in the mortgage assume their mortgage through a land contract or an assumption. And the issue was, could the banks allow, legally, could they be forced to grant those assumptions? And finally the case came out where they could if it was in the mortgage. If there was a due on sale clause in the mortgage, written in the mortgage, then they had a right to enforce that. If not, then these loans could be assumed. And their legal counsel at the time, Manchester Bennett, had said, basically, and he represented the banks, that they were unenforceable, that those whole provisions were unenforceable, or due on sale. I said, well, the Supreme Court of the United States said they're not enforceable if there's a provision in the mortgage, but if there isn't, then they must allow these. So you have to read the mortgage. And seller financing became a big issue at that time through land installment contracts and assumptions. And I learned to be the expert in that area in granting that. And for the most part nowadays, those provisions are in the mortgages. And these loans are not, without permission. They can still assume it, but they have to have permission of the lender. And back then the situation was different. The lenders, didn't want to pass on the low interest rate because it was costing them money. They depended on these old loans being paid off, and the new loans at the higher rates to be issued to keep in business, savings and loan business and the banking business. Affected my knowledge, and I taught at the Youngstown State University, so many of the realtors took me for class, so they would know I had the knowledge and were impressed by it whenever I gave a class, that I knew what the hell I was talking about, because some don't. Even though they're lawyers, even though they're in real estate, they don't understand what the real estate people go through, the investors go through, the problems they face with the government regulation, the utility companies. I knew it, and I tried to help them as best I could.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess what have you seen, kind of when you started to now, kind of like with, people investing in utilities and stuff, how things have changed, kind of gotten more strenuous or simpler?
Well, one of the fights that I ended up representing a large group of landlords, and was the registration of the properties and the litigation on that. Basically we stopped that in the beginning. We got a restraining order. Judge Jenkins was the judge, and he, very conservative guy, he kind of supported the decision that they would not allow these registrations of properties. And though the registration of property, although in and of itself, that would have cost the landlords, they were regulated to the point where they would regulate the conditions of the property. Now that, I always thought that was should between the landlord and the tenant. And the Ohio landlord-tenant law says that landlords must keep the properties maintained. If they don't, then the tenants have a right to put that money into escrow, the rent, until those repairs are made to their satisfaction. And the courts determine, the municipal court or the local county court determine, has that happened? Should the money be released? Have the repairs been made? Et cetera, et cetera. To do the due on sale inspection or the registration of the properties, to us was just a money maker for the cities, who didn't have the staff, who retired the staff and fund them through these fees that the landlord would have to pay. A large real estate company I represented was Gary Krim Incorporated. He owned a lot of properties, and he has passed away since, but he agreed with me, and again, I represented him and his company in many of these issues before against the government, the city of Youngstown, and other cities who wanted to regulate the landlords. In recent years, I don't know. They claim that they've reestablished these registration. Many, the Board of Realtors never wanted to be involved. They didn't want to buck the city, so I kind of got away from representing those groups.
Okay. Do you do like eviction court and stuff like that?
I do eviction.
You do that quite a bit? Okay.
I had a recent one just last week where the purchaser of the property purchased it from the lender who had acquired it from as a foreclosure, and the person in it was never evicted. He appealed the eviction and appealed the foreclosure, and said that he's the owner of the property, and my client owned the property. And I advised him at the time, do not take property or acquire property that isn't vacant, that there's an owner in possession, because the buyer takes his notice if there's a person in possession of their claim. So we fought that issue, and we won the eviction case. The party was evicted. I tried to negotiate with the owner, resale the property to him. That fell through, and he was eventually put out. And the new owner got possession of the property. within the last 30 days. So it's still an issue.
Right.
And these issues comes up, and he was trying to collaterally, although he had appealed the foreclosure and lost. That was a final judgment, and once there's a final judgment, the sale was confirmed by the common police court, and this person in possession could not use any defense that he had against this eviction. Mm-hmm. Because it was a final. If he had any right, and he was, I'm sure he was mistreated. The bank was Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo, they're not nice folks. They have. He may be right. He may have valid claims against Wells Fargo. I didn't know. I told him that, and I advised him. I said, if you have valid claims against Wells Fargo, sue Wells Fargo. My client bought this property, but in his mind, my client was with Wells Fargo, which wasn't true. He bought it and paid very little for the property because they just want to get rid of get it off their list. But he and his family being evicted from this property on Windsor Avenue in Youngstown. Nice home. Too bad. But what could I do? I wanted to help. I tried to talk him into buying the property. He said that he had bid against this previous owner, bid a lot more. They wouldn't deal with him, Wells Fargo. I said, well, pay us half what you said you had bid on the property. We can resolve this. Right. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it.
What I guess so you done like seller finance, land contract.
I do all that.
All those sort of things.
Yes.
I guess
it's still my I'm knowledgeable on those issues.
What are some
the rights of the buyer, the rights of the seller?
Yeah. What are some things that kind of come up with those sort of situations?
Financing
scenarios.
Well, the biggest one is that if you sell in Ohio under the land contract law, if the buyer does not have 20% equity in the property and the contract itself is less than 5 years old, then the vendor, the seller, can evict the person like he can a tenant. Doesn't have to go through the expensive process of foreclosure, which can be expensive, it can be long, and the courts are busy because there's a lot of foreclosures.
Right.
So he wants to get, if that's possible, fit it into that window of, that's the way to do it. And so when that happens, if they come to me, I can advise them on how sellers, the vendors, on how to cancel that agreement without the necessity of foreclosure. Or you have to foreclose, and I can do that too. And get them into court, get the agreement canceled. That's so important. Old contracts are a problem. Again, once they're 5 years old, there has to be a foreclosure, there has to be a sale. That's all part of the issues that come up, legal issues that come up, that we can deal with.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. If you have any questions, come in anytime or call on the phone. I'll be glad to help. All right?
All right.